All right, so I did The Cold Wind and the Warm. Um, it was written by Ray Bradbury. He was a Pulitzer Prize winner in 2004. Um, he's best known for Fahrenheit 451, The Illustrated Man, and The Martian Chronicles. All those are pretty controversial pieces, and that seems to be what he was big on writing was pieces where there's like a hidden meaning in between just like this story. But a little bit more background information about him. He's not some like low key author. He has over 30 books. He's got close to 600 short stories, poems, essays, screenplays, plays, all that kind of good stuff. So that's a little bit about him. As for the story, it takes place in Dublin, Ireland. Basically, they're at. It starts when they're at a hotel, and this older guy with five younger companions comes in to the hotel, and right off the bat they kind of face some microaggression. You know, it's not obvious at this point that they're gay, but that's the invisible identity in the story. So right off the bat, the guy, the hotel manager is all about giving him a room, even though they're kind of acting weird, saying something mysterious is going to happen. The manager's wife is not having it at all. A direct quote from the story is from the manager. He says, "I have wished to see not one communist, but 10 close by, not two Nigerians, but 20 in their skin, not three cowboy Americans, but a gross fresh from the saddle. So when six hothouse roses come in a bouquet, I cannot resist potting them." Right there, too, that's kind of a hint. He calls them roses. I can't think of too many guys that would enjoy being called a rose, or would be described as a rose. So that's kind of the coded language that we see throughout. But we'll get back to the summary. So they're saying that something strange or mysterious is going to happen, and everyone's just kind of like, what's going to happen? So they just take off and they start walking down the street, and they run into like this group of friends. And what's interesting about this group of friends is they're all really different, and I'm not sure if it's just because they are encountering this group of gay guys walking around in Ireland. But the way they're set up, they make it seem like everyone has these friends. One of them is basically it's like, oh, we all have a friend like this, and I think it's interesting the way it's set up because it really makes you think about what you did. But anyway, so after all these natives are running into him, they basically decide to spy on him for a little bit, and like after a while, they're just standing in the park not doing anything. So basically, they just give up because it's cold, and they go into the pub, and they all start talking about how weird these people are and all that, and eventually they're just like, oh, well, they're gay. They just wanted to see the leaves change, but they're not gay for that reason. They're gay just because that's what they are. Their sexual orientation. They're all gay, and the mysterious thing was that they wanted to watch the leaves change. So they all are going around and just talking like an experience. Like they want them to come into the pub, and next thing you know, they're in the pub and they're just having the time of their lives. They're all reaching out, talking to each other, having a good time. And then the story ends with they're down on the docks and they're all singing, whistling, having a good time. And the group of the gay guys has to leave to go back home. And the natives start hearing them sing, and they're like, "Oh my God, like these guys are great. I wish that we would have actually reached out to them and been friends with them before we made this judgment about them." And it's kind of how the story ends. Really makes you reflect on everything. So I'm kind of going to recap here with the summary and tie in some things. So, as I said, the invisible identity was homosexuality. They were frequently called aliens. That's part of the coded language. But my biggest question was why Ireland? And When I think of Ireland, I think of a lot of the movies and the struggles that they've been through. All these people are like the main characters in the movies are all really manly, and there's always some sort of conflict there. It seems like, but it's also really traditional. Everything is by the book. You're married to a woman, you have kids, the men work, women some can work, but mostly they stay at home and tend to all that. That's what the media culture makes it seem like. So we're going to talk about some of the coded language now and kind of tie that in with the identity. The way the men are described, like throughout the story, kind of hints at it. It's not really a microaggression, but a lot of them are stereotypes. So the first one, when they're talking about being described, when they first walk in, it's a bust of bird song, hands flapping all about, banting and flickering their eyes, mouths pursed, enlightened eyebrows, voices. Like they talk about their voices a lot and how they giggle and they float everywhere, and then they have like pink hacking coats and all that. So that's kind of where another hint was. Another one was what David Snorkelly or whatever his name was. He said he called his group cohorts, and I thought that was kind of weird. So I looked it up, and cohort is basically a group of people banded together, treated as a group. So if you had like an extensive vocabulary, you could have figured that one out. I already talked about the manager, and then the biggest one where it kind of just smacks you in the face is with Tumulty. When he realizes they aren't different, they're all in the pub and he's talking about how they aren't that different. Everyone's getting mad, and he's talking about women and laying them in a field, and what most straight people would do, but he says, they have very little to do with women. And right there, that's basically like saying they're gay, but he's not saying they're gay. And then the terms for identity, they faced a microaggression, like I said, when they walked into the hotel. They're a non-dominant group. The gay community is growing and they're starting to get a lot more media presence, but I wouldn't say they're a dominant group yet. We talked about the stereotypes with how they were described by Ray Bradbury, but also in the story itself, which is like the way they were being spied on and everything by the dominant group, which is the Irish natives, all the friends and everyone. It's just white, straight people. They even threw in like a father, so like a Catholic priest, because most Irish people are Catholic. And then the last one was passing. They aren't trying to fit in anywhere at all. They want their presence to be known, and they're all wealthy, so they're not gonna be deterred from having a good time just because they're gay and in Ireland. So to wrap it all up, I think he didn't really come out and say they were gay because he's making you, as the reader, think about how they're treating these people and like, oh, like kind of getting you to fall into the trap where, oh, they're aliens. They're what's going on? They're weird. And then when it slaps you in the face with they're gay, you're just like, oh my God, I can't believe I thought about that. That's too easy to get wrapped up in that mindset. And people all the time say that they're open minded, but this really makes you focus on that. Like, I'm really not, and I need to be careful with what I'm thinking because, it could really end up impacting someone. In the story, they weren't that impacted, but I'm sure in real life, people making decisions like that and thoughts and all that can really impact someone's life. So, that was The Cold Wind and the Warm, the summary, coded language, and terms for identity, and why he just didn't come out and say, these are some gay guys in Ireland. The story's great. I'd recommend it. So thank you.